What's up, duelists? Yesterday was the really big charity tournament, and today I'm going to show you guys the top 8 deck lists. Before we get into things, shout out to all the new subscribers. We got like 45 new subscribers in the last, few hours, but shout out to you guys. Thanks for sticking around. In the stream yesterday was an absolute blast. What a banger of a tournament. I mean, every single match was a grand finals worthy match. Definitely check out the VOD if you want to see the matches, if you want to see these decks in action. Full VOD is up on my channel, so go ahead and check that out whenever you're done, downloading which of these decks you want to download or whatnot. Another thing is, I got to shout out Format Library. These tournaments are ran in the Format Library Discord, and these top 8 deck lists can be found on formatlibrary.com. That's the website where this is, where we are right now. You'll see it. You see it right in front of you. You see it right in front of you. That's the web page that's open right here. Let's go ahead and get into the decks. Okay, we had, I think, 7 different decks in top 8, just Edison format classic, very diverse, very skill-intensive format. This is probably one of the more unique decks in the top 8. This is, oh, hold up one second, I got a cough. I'm going to mute my mic real quick. My bad, everyone, my bad. Okay, I'm back. Anyway, this is one of the more unique decks. This is Carpath. You guys know Carpath. I mean, he's one of the most genius deck builders to ever do it, and a very powerful duelist on top of that. This is his Neo-Spatian Diva Hero deck. This deck is like the Diva Hero decks you've seen before, but it's got a really cool engine, triple convert contact, and then it's got 4 Neo-Spatian monsters, each of them filling a special role. Neo-Spatian Glowmoss is a light for your Chaos Sorcerer. Neo-Spatian Dark Panther is a dark for your Chaos Sorcerer and your Dark Armed. He's also got a decent effect in some instances, some fringe instances, and then, of course, you got the Aqua Dolphin, which is for your Miracle Fusions, and the Gramble, which has a very great effect and also works with Miracle Fusion. Although it looks like he was not including Elemental Hero Gaia, he opted to include Red Dragon Archfiend as his 15th extra deck card. His sideboard has some really interesting ones. It's got a Burial from the Different Dimension. I wonder what that's for. Maybe it's for DD Crow, but I mean, DD Crow is still going to screw you a lot of the time. If they DD Crow, like, chain to Miracle Fusion, then you can't even chain Burial to that. Like, it's still going to 1-for-1 trade with your Miracle, and then your Burial's kind of, like, sitting there awkwardly, like your Miracle's already gone, So I don't know about that one, but the rest of the deck looks really solid. He's got Light Imprisoning, he's got the Bottomless in the sideboard, Mind Crush in the main. Very, very, very powerful inclusion. In a deck where you have 3 Convert Contact and a Lure of Darkness, you're going to be able to draw through a lot of cards really, really quickly. So seeing turn 1 Dust Shoot Mind Crush is actually going to be pretty common. Not as common as, like, of course, in later formats or earlier formats when Dust Shoot's at 3, but pretty common because you got 4 really powerful draw spells. Really, really dope list. Congrats to Carpath again for getting his top 8. This is his second top 8 in one of these events. Okay, next deck. Next up, we've got Dad 100. He topped with Gemini Hero Beat. Very, very powerful duelist. Played pretty well in the tournament, actually. I think this is his first... Yeah, this is definitely his first top. Secured his invite for RBCT Rulers in November. And I just got to shout out to the list. I mean, the list looks really clean. He's got the Voltic tech. He's got the main deck Royal Oppressions. Elected to cut the 3rd Deep Prison, which is sometimes common here. I think that's it. Maybe cut the Dark Bribes as well. We don't see any main deck Dark Bribes. Or even side deck Dark Bribes. Made the Oppressions instead, and they must have worked out well for him. He's got a Marshmallow in the sideboard, which is such a cool one. That's got to be for, like, dragons. We also saw these Kaikus and this King Tiger Wanghu. We saw them put in a lot of work in the tournament, so really solid inclusions from him. Extra deck's pretty straightforward. Everything else pretty straightforward. Kind of cute. He has the Super Poly with the Super Ancient Gear Golem. Like, potentially could Super Poly into that. That's kind of hype. Overall, solid deck list. Not much to say about it. I mean, it's Hero Beat. We've seen it a million times before. There's some fresh text in it for sure. He's got the sauce, but all things considered, well done, Dad 100. Congrats on getting your invite. Next player. Burn Dig with Diva Zombies. Burn Dig elected to include the Deep Sea Diva engine and 3 main deck DD Crows. This is such a wild list. It's so, like, I don't know. I don't want to say, like, metagamed, but kinda. It's got triple DD Crows, got double Tomato, double Turtle. So a lot of recruiters, a lot of ways to find your Goblin Zombies and then summon Diva and combo off, which is basically what he's trying to do. I mean, he's just focusing on getting that Goblin Zombie in play, normal summon Diva interaction. He is playing the Spine Gilman, so Diva is a starter on its own. I do kind of like it. 41 cards. Makes you slightly less likely to draw the Gilman, which is kind of nice. Triple DD Crow is wild. I don't think it's bad by any means. I just think it's crazy. It's just like so like left field, but it worked out really well for him. Got him 5th place in this event. Main deck DD Crow was kind of the story of this weekend. I think there's at least one other player main decking DD Crow in the top 8, and just seems really smart in today's metagame with a lot of zombies, a lot of frogs, and a lot of Dragon Turbo and that kind of stuff, where DD Crow is very high value. I think that DD Crow is going to see a lot more play. As long as people are skimping on Gladiator Beasts, as long as people are not playing as much Blackwings, then I think DD Crow is going to be a pretty good main deck inclusion. The trap lineup's pretty cool. He's got 1 Dust, double Wind Blast. In the sideboard, he's also got triple Electric Virus. Really must not have wanted to play against dragons. He's also got the 2 Thunder Kings for dragons as well. Triple Deep Prison's a really cool inclusion. I actually love Deep Prison in the metagame. I think it's super good in the mirror match. It's also really good against Blackwings and Vayu decks. Triple Light Mirror for Lightsworns and double Road to bring in to protect the Light Mirror. I kind of like that a lot, actually. This is a really streamlined sideboard. You don't have to make space for like crows or whatever. I would have liked to maybe see 1 Lightning Vortex, perhaps over a Light Mirror, but overall it looks really, really clean. Looks like he had a straightforward plan for all his stuff. Extra deck looks pretty standard. The only thing is probably this Gaia. I don't think you need the Gaia. I think you could cut the Gaia and the Chimera Tech and have a few more level 8 options like Red Dragon and maybe even a second Stardust. I don't know. Ancient Fairy, maybe another level 7 option. How easy is it to make level 7s in here? Not that easy, but kinda. Yep. I don't know. Cool deck. Next deck. Alright. 5th place also. This is rounding out the bottom half of top 8. Blackwings from user Aris. Aris is a very powerful duelist, member of the team Crow something. Team Crow. I don't know what team he's on. Him and Carpath are on the same team, and they practice a lot together, and they both got a top 8, which is good stuff. Good stuff to them. He's got some cool ones in this deck. He's got 2 main deck Cyber Dragon, give the deck a little bit extra speed, and then he's got 1 Tech Dark Eruption. This card was talked about a lot in 2010. It was kind of moved out of favor a little bit in later iterations, but I think it's still worth discussing. It might be okay. I'm not exactly sure what the applications are of it, besides like just having a 4th Blizzy or having a 2nd Gale or having a 4th Kalute or whatever. But seems alright. Seems alright. Interesting stuff. Sideboard has 2 Soul Release, 2 Compulsory. He must have borrowed this technology from Monster Gamer 13's first place list. He's also got 2 deck devs. These were really big this weekend from a number of different players. Extra deck looks pretty straightforward. Nothing really crazy here. Nothing to say. I guess the skill drains are kind of wacky too. Skill drain makes a little bit of sense with the Devil Cyber Dragon, but yeah, that's about it. That's it. Let's just go to the next deck. Congrats to Aris on earning his top. Also, congrats to Burndig on earning his top 2. These are 2 first-time top 8 contenders. This is another first-time top 8 contender. User Indicate, very powerful Edison duelist. He's been camping on the ladder for quite some time, and then also returned pretty recently to, you know, show people he's still got what it takes. And he played this Diva Zombie Hero deck, main deck Alias, main deck Evil Guy, main deck Miracle Fusions, elected to go with Miracle Fusion instead of Book of Life. This is a variation from Silchus Ruin's Diva Hero Zombie deck that we saw in the top 8 of RBCT3, in which Silchus Ruin decided to play Book of Life over Miracle Fusion, but I think Miracle Fusion does have quite a bit to offer this deck and this strategy in general. A little bit less recruiter package. There's only 1 turtle, but they do still have, Indicate still does have the 2 tomatoes to find the 2 goblin zombies to summon the Diva. Indicate is also not playing Spined Gilman, which I think is pretty solid choice. And he's also elected to include 1 of the bottomless in the main and 1 Call of the Haunted. Really powerful card in this archetype. What else? What else do we see here? Extra deck looks cramped, to say the least, but it's got everything you need. You just don't have Red Dragon or Mistworm, but those rarely come up, I suppose. You got a Snowman Eater in the board for Blackwings. The Burial is in the board. Return in the main. I kind of like that configuration. Burial is a little bit better in the post-board games. when people are bringing in stuff like Kaikus and whatnot. He's got the 3 spot removal and spells in the sideboard, or 4 I should say if you count the Vortex as well. 3 Dust Tornado, Light Imprisoning, 2 Pulling the Rug, standard stuff. Not manning the Crows like Burndig, but looks like a very well-tuned list, and Indicid played really well in most of the matchups we saw him on in camera. Definitely, or saw him in on camera. There we go. You guys get what I'm saying. Ooh, before we get into the top 3, you guys got to leave a like. We raised over $600 in donations to charity, basically. The way this tournament worked is that every player who entered had to donate at least $10 to a charity of their choosing, so it was a really cool event, and just show your support for the players who donated to charity by leaving a like. That's what you got to do. All right, third place, we got Joy Boy Bebop. Joy Boy Bebop played Lightsworn. This is a very straightforward, pure Lightsworn deck. Triple Wolf, triple Raikou, Hamster. We got double Celestia, Aaron, Garoth, Arcus, double Jane, Lumina, Lila, double JD, of course. Then you got Plague, Gores, Necro Gardna, the 3 Darks, the 3 classic Darks, and Card Trooper, one of the best starters in this deck. The spells all look fairly standard, except these 2 Book of Moons. They were pretty powerful for him every time we saw them on camera, so might be a pretty standard inclusion moving forward. And then he had 5 trap cards in the main deck, actually. 2 Beckoning Light, Mirror Force, Royal Oppression, and Trap Dust Shoot. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of Beckoning Light, and it did kind of bite him in one of the matches on camera, but it worked out well for him in a couple other situations. Just being able to use his JDs over again is a really powerful effect, and you do need some sort of recursion in this deck. You can't play without recursion. I think it's just a little bit too risky to play without recursion. You mill both your JDs, you kind of just lose. So you got to have at least 2 pieces, and he elected to go with 2 Beckoning Lights. I also do kind of like how the 2 Beckoning Lights kind of give shelter to his other traps. Like, if his opponent has a Space Typhoon, they might be a little bit more hesitant to blind Space Typhoon, knowing that he plays Beckoning Light, so that your Mirror Force and your Royal Oppression are a little bit more safe. Sideboard, we've got 2 Cyber Dragon, 2 DD Crow, fairly standard. The Trag is in the sideboard, as well as the Burial, which is actually a really interesting sideboard. We've seen a lot of sideboard Burial. How many is that? It's 1 from Indicid, 1 from Joy Boy, none here, but we saw one in, I believe, Carpath's list as well, so that's 3 out of the top 8 were siding Burial. This has got to be in response to like all of the Kaikus and the DD Crows and the whatnots, so pretty interesting choice. Sided the Giant Trunade, as well as the 1 copy of Lightning Vortex. This is a very powerful tech. We saw it do a lot of work on camera this weekend. It's one of those cards that I think moving forward, you got to at least consider in your sideboard of Edison format. It's just a really great catch-all. Double Soul Release for other graveyard strategies. And then, of course, you got the Mind Crush, Double Decree for Blackwings, another Royal Oppression for unfair stuff like Glads, and then a Torrential Tribute, which was actually really huge for him on camera as well. In his extra deck, he's got the Tempest Magician and Flamvel Urukizis to be able to deal extra damage at the level 6 range. You can make Tempest with Lila, and you can make Urukizis with just about anything in Plague. Pretty solid list. Shout out to Joy Boy. I think this is his first top as well, so he earned his invite. Congratulations, Joy Boy. Very well done. Okay, getting into second place. Now, this list is hype. I actually really like this list. This is the Vayu Turbo second place list from James Ark. He has worked on his list from old and made a few updates to it for the current meta. Sorry about that, I had a cough. Okay, we're back. Few changes you'll notice is he cut Necro Gardna. That card is a brick and a half. I'm actually pretty happy with that cut. He cut 1 Book of Moon, and he cut 1 copy of Kai's the Shadow Monarch, added 3 Upstart Goblin. Also managed to find space for a main deck DD Crow. I think this was a main deck Cyber Dragon in the past, if I remember correctly. The rest of the list is pretty much the same as it's always been. The sideboard, he started using the new techs, Kaiku and Lightning Vortex, and they worked out really well for him on camera as well. We saw both these put in a lot of work, which is really hype. So definitely check out his matches. He played really well this weekend and earned his invite with a very solid second place finish. Silver medal. Not quite first place, but about as good as you can get if your name is not Raunuk. First place, Raunuk. Oh, dude, he's been playing this deck forever. I'm shocked that it's taken him this long to win a tournament. Him and James, I think, both have the most logged Edison format games on the FL Discord, which is, I mean, just awesome. It's just awesome that the two most practiced players placed in first and second in this tournament. It's absolutely fitting. The grand finals was an absolute treat to watch. They played one other time earlier in the bracket before grand finals, and that was another match that was absolutely a blast to watch. There were so many cool like little interactions in their matchups, and just watching Raonic play against other decks. He played against Randage, who was another #1 player in the ladder in the tournament as well. It was just a hype tournament overall. I can't recommend the VOD enough. Anyway, Randage's deck, or not Randage's deck, Raunic's deck. Raonic is playing Diva Frogs. This is like one of his favorite decks. I would say this is his favorite deck. He has triple Moray of Greed to shuffle back his Bricks, his Gilman, and his Mermaid Archer, or his like random frog guys. He's got one enemy controller. I really like this innovation from him. Enemy controller acts as a second copy of Brain Control in a lot of instances with this deck. You can normal summon Diva, grab another Diva, or grab a whatever, sack it to enemy controller, and then make a synchro. Basically just converting your enemy controller into a Brain Control. It also works as a Brain Control if you have Treeborn Frog in the grave. Really powerful combination. You special summon back Treeborn, you activate enemy controller in the standby, sack your Treeborn, take their thing, and then bring back the Treeborn again. Very powerful, very, very powerful. You also have the double Soul Exchange, really strong card to deal with like opening set Raikou, opening set, what's that other guy, Shining Angel, whatnot, Hamster. You get to play Soul Exchange, sacrifice their monster either to a Substitute effect or to one of your 5 tribute monsters on the first turn of the game. He's cut down to 1 Ryza, which is a really interesting cut, but it makes a lot of sense. In some of the games that you lose, you just have too many tribute monsters. And I think that the actual Frog engine and the Diva engine is enough to carry you in a lot of circumstances. And you only usually need 1 or 2 Monarchs to actually close things out with a deck like this. He also included the Unifrog and the Flip-Flop Frog, and they put in a ton of work. They had so much utility in all of his matchups. The trap lineup is very interesting. He's got the 2 Threatening Roar to stop OTKs. This deck plays very low defense, but it does a pretty good job at breaking boards and coming back from like a lost position just because of the nature of the Monarchs, you know, your Soul Exchanges, your Brain Control effects, and then of course you can make Black Rose fairly easily using Deep Sea Diva. So I think the Threatening Roar is just a way to make sure you don't die, like extra ways to make sure you don't die. It's also pretty chainable against the... not pretty chainable, it just is chainable against the Dragon Turbo deck. That's a deck where you wouldn't want a card like Battle Fader just because of the way Kawakimaru Drago works. And also in the metagame, Vanity's Fiend, Fossil Dyna, these cards are very popular cards to side in against Frogs. Threatening Roar is one of the best answers to this because you can just set a monster, set a Threatening Roar. They can't run over your monster, then on your turn you just sack it for a Monarch and you run over their Fossil Dyna, or you banish their Vanity's Fiend or whatnot. In the sideboard, lots of cool tech, lots of cool tech. He's got, of course, the standard, pardon me, 2 Cyber Dragon, 3 DD Crow. These were huge for him. DD Crow helped him a lot in all the Vayu matchups against James, against Randage. A few of the other people we watched also helped him against some of the other unfair decks like Lightsworn. He's got triple Vanity's Fiend, which is another great one to bust out off of a fucking Soul Exchange or a Brain Control sort of thing, or 1-for-1 even. Great card. Just a great card in this format. If your deck can support 3 of them, you should probably play 3 of them. A 4th player sideboarding Burial. This is a very important card. In this deck, if your 2 Treeborns get banished, you kind of get put into a weird spot. Having the Burial kind of just makes it so that your opponent spends their DD Crows on your Treeborns, they're down 2 cards, and then you Burial, and it's like a +1 at some point in the game if you expect your opponent to have Crows. It's also nice that if they Crow in the standby phase, you can Burial it back in the standby phase and still bring it back, as opposed to something like, I don't know, Return or whatever. It would be a little bit more awkward. Double Bottomless has got to be for Glads or Blackwings, and then the 2 Deck Devastation Viruses. This is a really cool tech that he plays in the Diva build. Not only can you Diva into Gilman or Archer, special summon Catastor, and sacrifice it to Deck Devastation as early as turn 1, but you can also Soul Exchange, target your opponent's Caius, target your opponent's Gores, target your opponent's Vanity's Fiend even, target your opponent's Sirocco, Armedwing, whatever, and then activate Deck Dev, tributing their monster to Deck Dev them, which is absolutely devastating, no pun intended. Really, really cool inclusion in this deck. Really cohesive and well-tuned, well-tested list. And to round things out, of course, you got the Dust Tornadoes. Make sure no Floodgate action is stopping you from playing the game. The extra deck is really interesting. Double Catastor. just to make sure you get the most out of your divas. You're going to sometimes be using salvage to add back your level 2, level 3 monsters, and then more of greed to shuffle it back in the deck. So you'll have a lot of instances to make level 5s. Definitely want to have at least 3 of those in your extra deck. Electing to include 2 catastrophes makes a little bit more sense than including 2 magical androids, as they are darks for deck dev. And then, of course, you got to have all of the standard synchros, plus a Flamvell Urukizas to pierce for game, and an Urbellum to sort of yada lock the decks that are keeping a stacked hand but not playing a lot of traps. Decks like Frogs, decks like Dragon Turbo can honestly get yada locked if you like crow their Treeborn and then hit them with an Urbellum. The game can just end almost immediately. Really solid extra deck construction from Raunik, and an incredible undefeated run all the way to first place. Spoilers, he did not lose a single match in the entire tournament. And the list, you know, it goes to show, if you practice, if you have the best list, if you play the most, if you grind the most, if you put in the time, if you put in the effort, the results are going to be there. Edison format is the #1 most skill-intensive format Yu-Gi-Oh! Has ever seen. You very rarely, I don't want to say you don't get varianced out, because you do get varianced out sometimes, but you very rarely get varianced out if you are just playing your best and have the best list. If those are both true, then you are going to win. And I know that's kind of like vague and whatever, but you know what? Edison format's the best. Smash like, subscribe. Anyway, E3 Yu-Gi-Oh! Signing off. Peace out, everyone.